Sparta didn't raise sons, it raised property of the state. From birth, your body is an asset. By 7, your comfort is a liability. That's not legend, it's policy. The agoge wasn't only pain drills, it was literacy, songs, war hymns, and obedience stitched into your day. Keep listening. We'll move phase by phase, paides, paidiskoi, hebontes, and end with the shield that mattered more than armour. No roaring heroics, just the quiet machinery that made a phalanx move like one mind. Welcome back everyone, so glad to see you again. If you enjoy these videos, be sure to leave a like, comment where you're tuning in from, and what your dream is in life. It really does help. Now, take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy this stroll through history. Before you take your first breath of Spartan air, elders decide if you belong to the city or to the ravine. You are still red and slick, and the first hands that lift you aren't your mother's. The journey is short and final. A family member carries you to the council, where older men sit like a living scale. They measure you. They study how your limbs lie, how your chest rises, the set of your skull, the grip of your tiny fingers. They watch for symmetry because symmetry hints at future balance. They check the soft spots in the spine. Strength is not a number here. It is in the way you resist a touch or cling to heat. Then comes the wine. Not a toast, an assessment. Warm wine washes over your skin and into your mouth. It stings. It shocks a body that hasn't learned the world yet. Do you wail too long? Do you stiffen and choke? Do you settle? This is your first exam, and it is pass or vanish. The logic is cold. A strong newborn takes the wine and holds on. A weaker one may spasm or fade. No one promises comfort. The men read your reaction like farmers read weather. If you pass, you do not win a childhood. You get a contract. Your mother keeps you, but the state writes its name over yours. She will nurse you and rock you, yes, but she raises you on rules. Swaddling is tighter, exposure to cold is normal, and cries are not a call to action. The house learns to think of you as future service. Gifts may come, but they are practical. No soft luxury. You're being readied for a place you don't get to choose. If you fail, the outcome is not private grief. It is legal, public, and ritual. A set path leads to exposure, laid out on a slope or in a place set aside for this purpose. This act is not done in secret. It is part of order. The word cruel doesn't change the fact that everyone understands the rule. The city claims the right to cut weak shoots so the grove stays even. Parents are expected to accept the cut. Some do not, of course, but the law cares more about the body of the city than the ache of a household. Later writers tie this to Lycurgus, the lawgiver who becomes the ghost at every Spartan door. They describe inspections and the hard choice like it has always been so. Whether every detail stayed the same over centuries is another matter, but the point stands. The newborn is a civic question before it is a family joy. The men at the council aren't midwives, they are managers of future soldiers. Think of the body as a tool in a state workshop. If the blade looks true, it goes to the rack for sharpening. If it looks bent, it doesn't take up space. Cold? Yes. But tools don't get sentiment, they get sorted. That is how Sparta frames the choice. You're either a thing to keep in the kit or scrap. And nothing in that room suggests doubt. Doubt slows hands. Sparta prefers speed. Why risk such loss when every citizen counts? Because the citizen body is small, and the land is full of people who are not citizens, the helots, who work the fields and outnumber the masters. A larger lower class means a constant worry that someone might rise up, so the city bets on fewer, harder men rather than more, softer ones. Every shield in a future line must hold, and that means pruning starts early. The fear behind the rule isn't hidden. It is baked into everything from meals to music. This is also the first rule that cuts into family power. Parents in most places shape a child's first years. Here, elders step in before you've learned the smell of your house. The message is plain. The household is a room. The city is the roof. As you grow, that roof lowers until it presses down. Your mother may sing to you, but she sings state-approved songs. Your father may smile at your first step, but he knows those feet will march to someone else's drum. Details pile up in quiet ways. Neighbours learn not to ask too many questions. Midwives learn where to stand in the line. The path to the council becomes a known route. The wine is kept ready. And everyone, down to the older children, understands the rule without hearing it spoken. That's how you keep a system running. You make the hard things so normal that no one pauses at the door. So yes, the brutal test is simple. Newborns face elder inspection and the wine bar, and the unfit may be exposed. A lawful pruning for a military garden. You live. You are stamped suitable, and that stamp will follow you through every room. Your mother wraps you, but the state has already unwrapped your future. You survive. Now the state waits for you to turn 7. On your 7th birthday, your home stops being yours. A hand you know takes yours, and then lets go at the door of the agoge. The paidonomos waits, the boy herder, a title that tells you everything. He looks at you, not like a child, but like a recruit who owes the city rent. Your hair goes first, your bed goes soft to hard, your voice goes from chatter to clipped replies. You learn the new rules in the first hour, and none of them care how special you were yesterday. You sleep on a board with a thin layer of reeds you cut yourself. You tie them with bark, fingers sore, because comfort is waste here. Your hair is shaved close, and the breeze on your scalp feels like a warning. The paidonomos sets the tone with a stare. Speak only when spoken to. Answer with a few words. Stand straight. Move fast. The old house smells fade and are replaced by dust, sweat and smoke from the kitchen, where food is counted like coins. You count too because you will always want one more bite than you get. Family ties loosen in small cuts. Your mother's voice becomes a memory that fades behind the clatter of boys and the bark of your new master. Your father visits, but he is not here to rescue you. He nods and asks the questions the city asks. Are you learning? Are you quiet? You learn fast that your new loyalty isn't to a face at your table, but to the row of rough blankets and the boys who sleep on them. They will eat with you, walk with you, and take your food if you turn your head. Lessons mix letters with songs you already half knew from festivals. You copy the shapes slowly and then sing the words loud, because the tune matters as much as the ink. War hymns set a rhythm for your feet and your breath long before a shield lands on your arm. Dance drills your balance, not your showmanship. Spin, step, stop. Hold a pose without wobbling. It looks like art, and it is. But here, art is glue. It holds a group together when fear makes hands shake. You get told to be brief, and you practice it until it feels normal. A question lands. Your answer is a stone, not a story. No excuses, no wandering. The word for it lives in your mouth now, laknizen. A joke, if you try one, risks a switch across the calf. You begin to hear the lesson behind the lesson. Short words cut clean. Short words are hard to argue with. Short words move a line faster. Cold mornings start the same way. You wake before the light, breath fogging in the air, bare feet tight against the chill. Your skin prickles and your stomach reminds you what you didn't get last night. You walk to the mess and smell barley, smoke, and the iron tang of a pot that has boiled 1,000 times. The bowl is there, but it is never full. You eat, but not enough, and you feel the edge it gives your senses like a string pulled tight across a bow. Silence grows on you like a second skin. You learn to hear without turning your head. You learn who shifts on the boards and who sleeps like a stone. You learn to notice the scrape of sandals that means the paidonomos is close. Hunger and quiet team up and start shaping your instincts. A boy coughs twice at the door and you know he is warning you about a watch. Another boy pushes part of his bread your way and you feel the weight of the debt settle between you. Culture is not decoration here. Songs carry order, poetry drills memory. A line from a hymn can pull you back into step when your head drifts. You recite in unison, and your voice blends with the others until you forget where yours ends. Letters matter because orders must be read. Dance matters because a body that can hold still can also hold a line. You start to think in formations. Your own comfort drops down the list. Your messmates climb up. You bluff less, listen more, and move when told. You stop asking why, not because you are dull, but because the answer rarely changes. The answer is because the line needs it. The paidonomos matches praise with pain, and both feel like tools on the same bench. This is what happens at 7. The state removes boys from home and moves them into the agoge, replacing family comfort with collective routine. The old world of soft hands and spare bites ends at the barracks door. In its place, you get a schedule that grinds you flat where you stick out and pulls you tight where you're loose. Now the cloak, the hunger, and the quiet thefts. Why would a rich city keep its sons cold and hungry on purpose? Because comfort is a leak in a bucket, and Sparta hates leaks. You get one cloak for the year, not winter and summer. One. It grows stiff with sweat and smoke. It never quite dries after rain. It smells like your mess and the smokehouse and the field. Shoes are for soft feet, so you go without most days. You walk on frost, you walk on hot dust, and your soles learn to read the ground like a map. Meals show up on time, but not in size. The ladle hits the bowl, then moves on. The rule is the rule, thin by design. Your body asks for a cushion and a second serving. The rules deny both. Sleep comes on reeds you cut yourself, tossed on the floor, not fluffed. A draft runs along the boards and under the door, and you learn to tuck your knees to save heat. You pull the cloak over your head and feel every seam. When the wind changes, the fabric scratches your cheek with the grit it trapped from yesterday's drills. You wake with a raw throat and a tight belly. That feeling is not a bug, it is the point. Endurance turns into a daily class. Run before dawn, then drills, then chores, then more drills. The cloak makes heat management your problem, not the quartermaster's. On wet nights, you stop expecting dry socks you don't own. On cold nights, you practice letting your teeth chatter without your hands shaking. The paidonomos does not praise you for comfort. He praises you for finishing on the same pace with less in your bowl than you wanted. When a storm rolls in and the roof leaks, no one moves. You practice stillness, because stillness in line is a skill. You sleep rough on purpose. Battle nights are not a surprise party. They're dew, wind, and a ground that steals your warmth. So you train your back to forgive hard floors. You train your nose to accept the smell of wet wool and old ash. You train your head to shut out discomfort. A mind that can step over a cramp can step over a moment of fear. That is the theory, and the staff sticks to it like it's scripture. Writers later talk about underfeeding as a method. The idea is simple enough. Less food makes a body lean and fast, and it teaches self-control. You learn to walk softly when you're light. You learn to plan when you can't rely on a full plate. Hunger sharpens your eyes for chances. It also forces sharing, which is a neat trick. If your messmate palms you an extra mouthful, you owe him. Debts tie boys tighter than speeches. The black broth shows up at the Sicilia and needs no speech either. It's dark, salty and heavy with the taste of boiled blood and vinegar. You don't chase it down because it's tasty. You take it because everyone takes it, and because it fills a space without making you slow. The older men nod at you across the table when you don't flinch. That nod is worth more than a sweet. In time, the broth stops being a dish and turns into a sign. We do hard things together, and we don't complain. There's a bigger engine behind all this. The helots work the land. They push the food into the system. They outnumber you. That makes every citizen a piece of a lock, and soft pieces crack. The more others farm for you, the more you must be ready to move at night, march far, and fight on little sleep. Comfort dulls readiness. A warm bed teaches your nerves the wrong lessons. A full belly slows your feet when they need to go. So hardship is not a side effect of poverty. It is the lesson plan. One cloak sets a baseline. You adapt or you suffer. Thin meals set a tempo. You perform on less. Bare feet set a standard. You don't quit when the ground bites back. By 12, you know where to stand in the wind to keep your chest warm and your hands free. You know how to fold the cloak to pad a hip bone, and how to wring it at dawn without shaking your arms numb. You learn to count your breaths when your stomach spasms. You learn that your body can do more than it wants to. That's the payoff. Spartan boys are kept cold and hungry to build endurance, to love simple things, and to be ready for campaign life where surprise is normal and comfort is rare. The cloak trains heat and patience. The empty bowl trains focus and stealth. And speaking of stealth, hunger has a second purpose. You're now expected to steal. You're told to take what you need, then punished, but only if someone sees you. That's the rule, and it lands like a riddle you solve with your stomach. You're hungry by design, and the men in charge act like they don't see it. Then they drop hints that the gardens aren't watched. The storehouse door swells in the afternoon, and the cook's boy naps after noon drill. They don't smile, they don't nod, they just leave gaps, and you're supposed to notice the shape of a missing guard as if it were a drum beat. You learn the difference between law and lesson. The law says don't steal. The lesson says don't get caught. Instructors don't hand you a. They give you chores where mistakes help them more than you. Sweep the yard and you find the loose plank in the fence. Carry kindling and you meet the woman who trades a heel of bread for dry wood. Haul water and you test the latch, each day a little more. Their eyes sit on your shoulders even when you can't see them. One asks a question in the evening. Eat well? Another looks at your bowl and waits. If you glance away, he marks you for tomorrow. The rule feels upside down. The act isn't the problem, the failure is. You lift a fig and get praised in silence if your hand comes back clean. Lift the same fig, stumble on a stone, and the switch arrives quick and loud. The pain isn't for the fig, it's for the noise. You start timing your breaths with your steps. You learn the rhythm of a dog's bark and how to step when its breaths lengthen. You train your hands to move without shaking when you feel eyes on you. The lesson burrows into your bones. The world is a field of alarms and you choose which ones you set off. You don't work alone for long. Hunger teaches math. 2 boys make less sound than 3, but 3 can pass food faster over a wall. You test it, night after night, with small runs for onions and old bread. You build a shared hand sign for danger, and a shared lie for when someone asks where you've been. You share the take with your messmates because a full friend will hide you better than a jealous one, and because tomorrow he's the one with the gap in the fence. Punishment, when it comes, has a shape. Caught red-handed, you stand while the older youths lay into your legs with straps. They don't aim for bone, they aim for pride. You learn to keep your face straight and your feet planted. The lesson under the pain is clear. Plan or bleed. The men don't rant about morals. They talk about carelessness, about blown covers, about doors left open. They care about patrol skills, not sin. You start scouting paths by day, as if you're tracing routes you'll use with spear and knife later. There's a set piece the city loves. The altar, the cheese, the whips. It plays like a game, but it isn't. The cheese sits on the edge, tempting boys to bolt in, grab, and sprint. Older youths stand with lashes ready, not to guard the cheese but to guard the lesson. You dash in, head low, feet light, and if you mistime the turn, the cord bites your back. The crowd doesn't shout. It listens for speed. You learn to hide purpose behind a blank face, to move like you're walking even when every part of you is coiled to run. The social math is cruel and simple. The group benefits. The risk is yours. Your mess eats better when you succeed. Your back pays when you don't, so you get picky. You steal only what travels well. You study smoke from the guardhouse and learn which shift drinks too much on festival nights. You stash food in places that won't get your friends blamed. You don't steal from your own mess. That is a line you don't cross if you like your teeth. Little by little, theft becomes a class in cunning that doesn't break unit trust. You stop thinking of it as sneaking and start thinking of it as moving through a map of sight lines, sounds and habits. You practice stepping on the heel, then the ball to mute the crunch of gravel. You grease a hinge with mutton fat and mark the door with ash so the next boy knows which side bites back. You carry a shard of pottery to cut twine without scraping a blade. You keep a story ready, short and dull, because long stories wake suspicion. So how did you learn to steal? By sanctioned thievery where the real offence was getting caught. The city set the stage and hunger gave you motive. Every punishment taught stealth and planning, the same skills you'd need when you move at night on real ground with real blades. You learned patience, silent movement, and how to work as a shadow among friends without stealing from them. You learn to feed the group and hide your hand, and as you age the games get darker. Your birthday doesn't bring cake, it brings harder eyes watching you. You're taller now, voice cracking, and the easy mistakes of childhood stop getting soft correction. The paedonymous still runs your days, but older youths lean in closer. Their questions get sharper, their jokes cut. You are the age where a slip looks like character, not like clumsiness. The room feels the same, but the air is heavier. You sense it in the way your messmates stop laughing before the punchline lands. As a paydis goes, 15 to 19, your leash shortens. Drills lengthen. Free time shrinks to quiet minutes you spend fixing gear you didn't break. Mentorship arrives without a welcome speech. An older youth picks you out and starts shaping your habits. He watches how you carry your cloak, how you keep your knife, how you handle insult. He doesn't praise much. When he does, it's for small things that matter under stress, like how you fold your blanket flat or keep your steps even after a stumble. Discipline now means doing it right when no one calls your name. Tests change shape. Some days you're pushed forward to give orders to boys your own age. You learn that voice and timing matter more than volume. Other days you're told to keep your mouth shut all day and get a task done with only nods and looks. You feel your limits and then stand on them longer than is comfortable. The city wants to see if you lead without show and follow without sulk. It wants to see if you can turn heat down on command. A few of you start getting colder invitations. A whispered errand at dusk. A patrol that doesn't end at the usual boundary. A request to leave your sandals behind. You're told to move without fire, to carry less than you think you need, and to keep your questions in your throat. The task sounds dull on paper. Walk here. Watch this. Return before dawn. The reality is steady tension and small choices. Which path hides your outline? Which ditch keeps you dry enough to stay quiet? Where do you pause when a dog sniffs twice? At the edge of your world sits the word people say lower than others, crypteia. You don't get a pamphlet about it. You hear pieces, night walks, eyes on helots, reports that don't go on a wall. Some call it training, some call it policing. It hovers near the agoge like a shadow you only see when clouds pass the moon. You learn that notice can be a trap. If you want that work, you don't beg for it. You show calm in small moments and let the right eyes mark you. Sources talk about it as a brutal right. Scholars argue about how big it was when it ran and what it really did. You don't argue. You just get used to the habits the rumors teach. Move slow enough to make less noise than your own breath. Eat when you can without breaking a line of tracks. Sleep in slices and wake with your hands where they need to be. Keep your blade simple, tight to your body. Wrapped so it doesn't flash. Hide by day. Learn the shape of a bush that takes you in without turning your cloak into a flag. Night stretch. You learn the land by touch. Your palm knows the difference between dry sand and dust that holds sound. Your toes find the edge of a path without looking. You mark wind shifts by the smell of sheep or whetstone. You count heartbeats at crossings and step on the beat that lives between your own. You map the habits of others. Which farm lights die first? Which patrol hums a tune on the second hour? Which dog ignores a slow shadow but barks at a quick one? Fear and pride become a rope you both pull. You fear the older youths because they can turn you to smoke with a look. You fear the task because darkness makes simple things tricky. But pride keeps you from freezing. Pride keeps your hand steady when you reach for a latch. Pride keeps your voice flat when someone throws a rumour your way to see if you blink. You and your cohort learn to protect each other's secrets without words, not because secrets are fun, but because loose talk cuts skin later. Secrecy binds the city as much as law. You start to speak in half sentences and hear the meaning anyway. You stop asking for reasons you don't need. You start leaving signs a friend can read and a stranger won't see. The state watches and takes notes, not on your strength, but on your choices when no one claps. It learns who keeps time in the dark and who trips over his own thoughts. By the end of Paidaskoy years, stealth isn't a trick you put on. It's a setting you live at. Hardness isn't a face you make. It's how your day runs. The best of you get quiet nods that open doors you won't name aloud. The rest still harden into men who can hold a place without drifting. You don't get a certificate. You get summoned at dawn and told where to stand. Now the hoplite line calls you by name. Why does a wooden circle matter more than your life? Because yours isn't the point anymore. As a Heban, 20 to 29, your day runs on drills and the mess table. You carry your spear, your helmet, your cuirass if you're issued one, and the round shield that is not really yours. You eat nightly at your secession, a fixed mess that becomes your second spine. Same faces, same bowl, same rules. The talk is short, the jokes are dry. The vote on who sits here is not a formality, and you feel it every time you lay your shield down by the wall. Your gear is simple, but the logic behind it isn't. The spear is personal. The helmet is personal. The shield is sacred because it covers the man to your left. Drop your spear, you embarrass yourself. Drop your shield, you cut a hole in the city. That's why the elders care more about that circle of wood and bronze than your lungs. You're not special in the line. You're the width of your shield and the reach of your arm, and that's enough if you keep time. Training reasons the ego out of it. The phalanx doesn't sprint, it breathes. You take steps to the beat of songs you learned as a boy, the same choruses you sang with dusty feet and a tight belt. Now those songs become a metronome for legs in armour. Left, left, set, lock. You drill the orthismos, the slow push that turns a front rank into a moving wall. You learn to keep your spear at the right angle so the points make a hedge and not a tangle. You keep your left elbow loose but steady, because that is where your neighbour lives. The line holds because each man's shield bites into the next. It's geometry you feel in your ribs. You angle the rim so it overlaps your neighbour's hip. He does the same for you. The wall becomes solid only when everyone gives up the idea of a gap. When someone runs, the hole doesn't stay a neat circle. It tears, then it rips, then men die in the shape of that choice. You don't need speeches about unity when you've seen a practice rank fold from one missing plate. Maneuvers matter more than speed. You practice the countermarch until your feet know where to go without a thought. Front rank becomes rear rank without blades crossing. You wheel by files, dress lines on the move, and shift from 8 deep to 12 when a voice calls. The pace stays calm. A flute keeps time, not to make you pretty, but to hold the rhythm of breath and step so no one rushes and no one drags. Calm beats panic. Calm keeps spears from catching on shields. Calm keeps you alive. The mess table is the other half of the formation. Your secession is a nightly test with meat and barley instead of bronze. The bowl goes round, and so does the judgment. New men don't just walk in. Your messmates vote. A single black bean can turn you away. If you lose your seat, the shame sticks. You can train all day and still be a man without a table at night. That is a bad smell in a city that runs on fixed groups. The table is where debts form and arguments stop before they turn into cracks in the rank. You start to think of yourself as a slot, not hero. Heroes swing wide and get someone killed at their elbow. A slot moves when the line moves and eats when the line eats. It sounds dead until you feel the power of it, how 100 men step and stop like they share a spine. You learn your neighbour's cough and the way his weight shifts before he slips. You know when to lift your shield half an inch so his spear clears, and when to lean harder so his knee finds a brace. The phrase everyone knows, the one mothers say, isn't a riddle about trophies. It means don't throw your shield to flee. Come home with it, or be carried on it. Either way your shield returns to the mess. Honour here is not a solo act. It is cohesion you can see and touch. A man who keeps his place buys life for the man to his left, and the city calls that glory. It isn't loud, but it is durable. You drill, you eat, you vote, you march. The routine builds a skin thicker than bronze. When battle finally comes, your kit gleams because someone checked it twice, and your face stays plain because panic is messy and the line has no room for it. In battle, Spartans carry long hair and calm faces. Before battle, Spartans combed their hair. Not vanity, message. You stand in the line, fingers working through long strands, tugging out dust and burrs, setting it straight while the flute keeps time somewhere behind the ranks. The air smells like oil, bronze and wool warmed by the sun. Hands move slow on purpose. No rush, no show of nerves. You're telling your friends you're steady, and telling the people watching that your heart rate belongs to you. The kit does part of the talking. The crimson cloak hangs heavy on your shoulders, dyed deep so it looks the same at dawn or dusk. The shield carries the lambda, the mark that says you belong to the city, not to yourself. It leans against your leg and takes your weight when you rest. The bronze catches light, but the paint on the crest and the letter claims the meaning. You and the man beside you look like a set. That is the point. Strangers see a wall, not a pile of men. Armour shifts with the years. Plates thin. Greaves come off more often. The reasons are simple. You move farther, you get hotter, you need breath. But while the metal lightens, the display sharpens. Cloaks cleaner, crests higher, edges trimmed straight. You're leaner than the old stories would like, but the face you put on is cleaner, colder, more controlled. The line trades extra bronze for extra posture, and bets that the look buys a pause in the other side. Long hair is for men in prime, not boys. You grow it once you're counted for the front ranks, and you keep it when your name holds weight at the mess. It sits under the helmet, tied or braided short, then let loose when you take the helmet off. There's an edge to it. On a handsome face it reads like calm. On a rough face it turns hard lines harder. Either way it says the same thing. I don't plan to run. The cloak earns its colour. Red hides blood and keeps faces plain. A stain in a darker field is just another shadow. You don't want men checking wounds in the middle of a push. You want eyes front and knees set. The hair ritual works the other half of the mind. You comb because hands need tasks when waiting would chew them up. You oil because the smell anchors you. You touch your own head and make proof that it's still yours. The act is quiet, and quiet spreads. Stories reach you even if you weren't there. Scouts wander up expecting clatter and panic, then find men grooming like it's a festival. They leave with a frown. That's part of the weapon. Noise tells the enemy you're rattled. Grooming says you own the next 15 minutes. You can't control the first arrow, but you can control your hair. Sometimes that's enough to tilt a heart. Dress codes aren't decoration here. They're for morale. A uniform that looks clean under dust makes a mind feel clean under fear. The tight cloak and the tidy crest stack small wins. The helmet fits right. The knot holds. The strap sits flat against the chin. Your hands tick through the checklist, and each click lowers the shake in your breath. Confidence gets visible, which is half the point. The other half is that your neighbour sees it and borrows some. Identity used to sit inside your chest. Now it sits on your head and shoulders too. The cloak, the hair, the shield face, the stance with the left foot a hand's length ahead. These pieces tell you who you are even if your thoughts wander. They keep you from shrinking during the long wait. They tell the back of the line what the front is feeling. They tell the men across the field that their guess is wrong. You learn small tricks over time. Tie the hair low so the helmet rim doesn't pinch. Rub a little oil on the cheek where the bronze will ride so the skin doesn't burn. Fold the cloak so the hem doesn't snag the spear butt when you push. Check the laces on the neighbour's greave because his hands can't reach the angle you can. None of this looks heroic, it looks tidy. Tidy wins inches, and inches make a push. So why grow hair long? Because it marks maturity and keeps your face intentional. It turns waiting into ritual and fear into a task. It pairs with the red wool and the common shield to build a calm worth more than weight of bronze. It tells the mess you belong with them, and tells the foe that your place is fixed. In the moment before steel hits, the line reads crisp, and crisp is courage that people can see. Not everyone meets the standard once steel flashes. What happens if your feet move backward once in your life? In Sparta, that step follows you home, not as a rumour, as a sentence. The field doesn't end a choice, the city finishes it. You can survive the battle and still lose what makes your name carry weight at the mess. The line has a long memory and it records in public. Sparta punishes not only failure of outcome, but failure of nerve. The wall breaks where a heart breaks. If your shield edge lifts and your place opens, that isn't your drama. It's a hole that eats the man to your left. So the city makes fear expensive. It's not about scaring you straight with a speech. It's about attaching a cost to the moment your heel twitches. That cost shows up later, every day, when you try to live as if nothing happened. One lapse can brand you a tresses, a coward, not a temporary label, a title that rides alongside your name. It shows up at the assembly and at the market. You won't find it on a board. You'll feel it in how people stand near you. The penalties stack small and public, exactly where it stings. They don't break bones. They cut ties. Doors start closing. You can be barred from public office, shut out from the sort of decisions you used to take for granted. Messmates stop backing your proposals. You might be forced to wear a cloak that doesn't match, or something marked, so the message travels without voices. Old men who would have nodded look through you. Women look past you. Families looking for husbands skip your name even if your farm is heavier than theirs. Street rules change around you. People step aside so you walk alone. No one shares a bench you sit on. A boy who used to run errands for you now does it for your neighbour. When festival days come, you stand out the way a stain stands out on white linen. It's not violence, it's colder. The city makes you an island, and a small one. Shame becomes a tool by design. Punishment isn't about balancing a moral account. It's about telling every other man that the cost of fear is higher than the cost of pain. The state spends humiliation the way it spends iron, sparingly, but where it carries the most weight. You learn the lesson if you wear the mark. Everyone else learns it watching you carry it. Stories circle after battles. A man comes home and sits by the door of the secession waiting for the bowl. No one sets it in front of him. The silence lasts all the way around the table. Others mention ritual insults thrown in public, not to entertain, but to fix the boundary. The point of these scenes isn't cruelty for sport, it's clarity. The line can forgive wounds, it does not forgive gaps. Sparta is small, the citizen list fits on a short wall. When the number is tight, a problem spreads fast. That's why the penalties live in the open. Fear is contagious, so is contempt for fear. The city bets on the second one winning, and it feeds it every time a tresses crosses a square and the crowd just lets the space widen. Over time, the math works on the mind. Death looks like an end to trouble. Dishonour looks like a lifetime of being turned sideways in every room. Men start fearing the cold shoulder more than a spear point. That's not poetry, it's practice. When the push comes, you feel your neighbour's rim bite your hip, and you think of the quiet that would follow a backward step. The thought is enough to keep your feet set. The payoff is plain. Cowards faced lifelong humiliation and civic exclusions that made desertion a bad bargain. No offices, no easy marriage, no place where your cloak blends. Day after day, the city pressed that message until it sank. The system didn't need to chase you with guards. It let the community do the work by refusing you the everyday graces that make a life feel whole. So the wall holds, not just with bronze and wood, but with habits and rules that make staying harder than running. You don't need to love the policy to understand it. A city with few citizens can't have men testing the line to see if it bends. It sets the price high and posts the price tag on your body. For those who die, honours look different too, quiet and strict. In a city that erases the self, what does a funeral look like? Not loud, not long. You don't get a parade. You get a rite that folds you back into the thing that trained you. The same hands that checked your gear now stack wood and lay cloth. The same voices that kept step now speak low and brief. Even the grief keeps its posture. Religion sits in the day-to-day like a spine. Before a campaign, you watch animals led to the altar, the priest reading signs in organs and smoke. If the look is wrong, you wait. If the look is right, you march. Hymns that once taught you to move now set the rhythm at the shrine. You hear Apollo's name, the god of order and measure. You hear Artemis, sharp and strict, tied to discipline and the edges of youth and hunt. Drill treats songs like tools, and the rites treat them the same way. Offer, sing, go. The state trims fame down to fit its walls. A big name risks pulling attention sideways. Obedience pulls it back toward the line. You were trained to strip out flourish in movement. The funeral strips it out in death. No gold masks, no long speeches. The focus stays on what you did for the city and how you kept within its laws. Even the good stories get cut to shape. Burial is simple on purpose. Your scarlet cloak becomes a shroud, the same cloth that hung square on your shoulders in the line. Olive leaves rest at your head or across your chest, cool, plain and local. The grave isn't a stage, it's a marker set low. Inscriptions are rare by rule. A man who dies in battle can be named. A woman who dies in childbirth can be named. That's it. The law turns a list of lives into two clean lanes. Die giving the city more citizens, or die protecting the ones it has. Memory works by group, not by spotlight. You know the lines they carved at the hot pass, the ones that praise men for doing what the law told them to do and stopping when told to stop. No roll call of heroes, just a reminder that the wall held because the order held. The point is clear enough without a chant. Do what is asked. Do not improvise when the stakes are highest. The lesson keeps its boots on even at the grave. The Syssitia continues the same night. One bowl stays empty. No one makes a speech about it. The seat isn't filled by a cousin with a good story. The table turns the absence into a policy. Food goes round, talk goes short. Debts shift across the faces you still see. The missing man's piece of meat becomes next month's rationing problem, not a lyric. That's the city's way of telling the living to close rank without clatter. You don't get statues on every corner. You get a field of modest markers and a system that holds you even after breath leaves. Priests do their part fast. Family mourns within bounds. The cloak and leave say more than most eulogies. The rules about who can be named keep the map clean of rivals to the state's story. You knew this while alive. The grave just underlines it. There's a warning tucked into all of this. We hear Sparta through other mouths and later pens. That blur, the so-called mirage, means some details lean toward legend. The hard edges are real enough, but the shine can be stronger than the bone. What matters for your day is how people act under rules they believe are theirs. The rights, the limits, and the quiet. The city meant them to be models as much as memorials. Even death teaches. The city remains whole. The person becomes a lesson other people can carry without adding weight. You don't vanish, you compress. Your name, if carved, fits the two categories the law allowed. If not, your cloak still does the talking, and the olive still frames the face. The funeral ends fast because the group needs the hours for patrols and fields. Time is a resource, just like iron. The dead don't spend it. Glory lands where law points. You chase it by holding your place, not by stepping out of it. Sacrifice counts when it serves the order that kept you fed and drilled. The burial practices say the quiet part out loud. The city matters more. That isn't romance, it's procedure. The red wool, the leaves, the short rites, and the rare stone words tell the living where to aim their pride. The rest is silence, and the work's still waiting. Your service ends near 60. Your story ends in silence and song. The bowl is lifted, the cloak is folded, and the line takes one step forward to close the space you left. You began as a child of a household and ended as a part that made other parts braver. Your path, inspection, agoge, mess, campaign, and a quiet grave was a blueprint, not a mishap. Your wants met a system that chose function over flair. Hunger trained nerves. Ritual set posture. Music taught timing. Shame welded gaps shut until the formation thought like one mind. That mind kept moving long after its bodies fell. The promise ran simple. Hold the line, and the line will hold you. If this calm walk through a hard world helped you unwind, share it, and tell me what stayed with you. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I do hope you enjoyed this brief stroll through history. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really does help. I bid you farewell and wish you a pleasant trip on your way to dreamland.